Alright, good morning guys. I'm here in front of Texas A&M and what was Tuxedo, I believe, quail. They were given to me by my friend Misty. Sometimes in farming you get really attached to certain animals and you cannot abide the thought of butchering them yourself, even though you need to because your feed bill is going through the roof. And that was what happened in this instance, is that she bred these quail herself. They're the second generation. They're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. I'll show you some up close later. But I had some female muscovy ducks. I could not abide the thought of butchering them. I needed to get them off my feed bill. It was more than I needed, but I just couldn't butcher them. So I gave her the muscovy ducks. So that's where we are today. I wanted to show you how to put other animals on top of your hotbed to recharge the manure and the urine, get the system hot again. And it doesn't have to be rabbits if rabbits are not your thing. Or if you don't want something in a cage, I want to show you how to do this so that it's not a cage situation. It's more of a open range chicken run type of a situation. So I still have a cage for my quail. The reason for that is at night they need to be put up because if a cat or another animal gets into the greenhouse and they don't have something to keep them safe, they'll get eaten. We had that happen once where our Coturnix quail had actually hatched out babies in the greenhouse, and the babies were so noisy that they attracted predators. The predator broke through the door in the greenhouse and ate the mom and ate the babies, and it was very sad. So we're gonna let them free range to some degree. Now, I don't know if you heard before the turkeys that were running around, but the turkeys need to be able to get into the greenhouse. They're not like the ducks. They don't like to go out and be out in all kinds of weather. Turkeys can get very sick. They can get pneumonia very easy. And so we let the turkeys into the greenhouse during the day and then we put them in their coop at night. So for the quail, the hotbed is going to be the run, and then the turkeys can use the pathways in the greenhouse itself as their safe, warm place. These guys were getting too cold being out in the run we had them in. The greenhouse is the perfect environment. But I do have to protect the quail from the turkeys because the turkeys like to chase everything. Oh my gosh, this is so interesting. There are earthworms all over my greenhouse. This is so weird. The earthworms climbed up and onto the greenhouse, and I can see through the earthworms. I wonder if I should show it. I wonder if you'll be able to see it. No. I can get close enough. Interesting. So what I have in here is I have these little metal hoops that will hold the bird netting up off the quail so that they can get around. You don't want a hard high ceiling, because what quail will do is they'll blow up. When they panic, they just fly really hard in one direction. And if they hit something hard, it can kill them. They hit it so hard, or it'll bruise the meat if you're planning on using them for meat. So what you want instead, if you have a tall ceiling, you want netting that's relatively soft. If you have a low ceiling, you want netting that's relatively soft. And so we're going to do bird netting. I find on our homestead that bird netting gets destroyed after one season if I let the girls anywhere near where I have netting, because their shoelaces get stuck on it, their boots get stuck on it, their clothes get stuck on it, and it gets dragged off and then it gets torn up. This is what my last batch of bird netting looks like, which is such a shame because it's kind of expensive. But at this point, I just have to look at it and say, well, we'll see what we can salvage. But for this project, the hotbed is a big enough, long enough expanse. I've got to get a big new piece to put on. This one I'm going to save for something else. The hotbeds, this particular hotbed is about, it's about 4 by 16. This one is 26 by 30, so bigger than we need. It needs to be safe for a better project. And this one is 14 by 14. So I'm thinking what we'll do is cut this one down the middle and extend it down to there, and it should be fine. If you have taller hoops, like if I was using PVC out here, it would be, I need to account for that in my bird netting. And again, this is just for their daytime use. At night they have to go into the cage. So I brought out my drill because I have these wooden lathe supports that I used to hold rabbit cages up when rabbits are out here. The reason I'm not putting rabbits out here right now is it's just too hot for rabbits. Rabbits overheat in a greenhouse unless I wait until December. So December, the rabbits come out, but right now the quail need a warmer environment than just being outside. So I've got to take this one off, and then I'm going to sink the cage so that the quail can get in and out of it easily without having to jump up or jump down. Quail are not very smart that way. They never really figure it out if they have to move too much up and down or over and around. They're just little animals that are meant to hide under dark things and fly a little bit and eat and that kind of thing. They're not meant to like figure things out. So I'm going to make sure that the cage is down on the ground where they can get in and out of it, and I'm going to put their food and water in it so that they know it's a good safe place to go, and that way we don't have to collect the birds quite as energetically at night. Another thing to know about quail is that they will hide under things and then stay there and die. And so if you have them in a situation where there's something they could get stuck under or behind or inside of, and then they can't figure out how to get out, they'll just die. So this is, I have a lot of stuff here from the growing season that needs to be cleaned up if I do decide to let the quail out. But this is a much safer spot because I don't have anything poking up, nothing for them to hide behind. And then the other thing is that if you put them in your greenhouse and they make too much noise and you have a real problem with predators in your area, you're going to have predators coming through your greenhouse to get to your quail. So in our area, that hasn't been an issue, but I don't want you to sacrifice your greenhouse for your quail if you don't have the money to put the plastic back on when something comes through the greenhouse to get them. A lot of times with other animals, my suggestion is build a little pallet greenhouse with painter's plastic that you're not planning on using for your own garden, and that works just as well, just a little greenhouse. But what I'm showing you today is how to do this so that the quail can recharge the manure and the urine in your hotbed. Alright, so if I can avoid cutting it, I'm going to avoid cutting it so that I can reuse it on something else. This is actually more than double the width that I need, so we'll see. Alright, so how long is that one? Yeah, 14 by 14, so my bed is shorter than I thought it was. Come on. Alright, we'll see if Buddy Boy wants to come in too. I may have to go catch him. Paige, I'm gonna need more food and water for the quail or for the turkeys in here. They're just sitting out in the rain. Yeah, you're not going out right now. You're just gonna sit out there in the rain and die. Okay, so it's really raining out there, and the turkeys were just sitting under a bush, waiting to get pneumonia. So I brought them in here. I don't want them killing the quail because that's exactly what they would do. They would eat them, they would crush them, etc., etc. What I'm hoping. The turkeys are heavy enough now, it's really hard for them to get up and on things. And I'm hoping that the bird netting is enough of a deterrent that they won't want to get up here. That it'll be an unbalancing experience for them. I may have to go get the PVC pipes and put those in here so that there's a bigger arch to make it more inconvenient for them. But we'll have to see. I'm going to let the quail out. And what I like to do is take little 1-inch screws and put them all along the hotbed, and then that's what I catch the bird netting on. So it's not a permanent situation because we have to be able to reach in from both sides to get eggs and everything. I don't want to staple it down. I've done that in the past, but also stapling makes it a little harder to reuse the cloth. Move over. Alright. Ow! You're so sharp! Ow, ow, ow. Weird hair, my goodness. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. Alright. Can you see them? Okay, so these are tuxedo / A&M quail. Aren't they just beautiful? Wish I could show you the whole coloring, but this guy is super healthy and really wants to get away. So I think they'll have a lot of fun in here. If the turkeys just stay on the edge, it won't hurt anything, but I'm concerned they're going to try and walk in the middle of the bed, in which case they could hurt these guys, so we'll see. Oh. Okay, so there's their cage. Food, water. This is their sand tray for dust bathing. It's just in a seed tray. There's the turkey. And let's go see if we can find where our pretty little guy went. Pretty little guy. Second pretty little guy. What do you think of that celery? Yeah, I see you're curious. Don't get so curious that you walk in the middle of the bed, please. I'll have to change everything. Don't really want to change everything. Oh. Oh. Which one are you going to do? Can you guys live in peace? One thing is, you see how as they walk they're moving the bird netting? That's not so good. You don't want the bird netting moved. Alright, oh, we got humidity in here. Alright, so I'm going to take 1-inch screws and put them in along the top side all the way around, and this is what I hook the bird netting onto. And I highly recommend getting screws that are at least relatively good instead of cheap, crappy ones. These ones are cheap and crappy. They're really, really bad. So make sure you get screws that you can reuse over and over and over again in your projects. Hey, crazy town turkeys. Okay, so I decided to add a hoop, and I don't know if I want to add another hoop here over the top of the cage or down there. I'm not sure, but I do want to keep the turkeys clear on the idea that I don't want them on here. So I might put it right here, because that's what they're going to want to do, is use this as like a sleeping or a pooping platform, and I don't want that. Alright, this is what the final product looks like. I put in 2 hoops right over the top of the cage so that if we need to put the turkeys in here, the turkeys don't have climbing on the cage itself as a platform as an option. That way they can't poop on the quail, they can't pick on the quail. I don't know how well this will work over the long run, but because we have the cage in here and we can put them up at night, the important thing, which is to keep the quail safe, is met. And them being out here in the greenhouse means they will be warm enough and have enough light that they should be able to keep laying. Everybody wants to go down in that little crevice underneath the celery. Huh, guys? Hi, pretty thing. Nobody's tried to fly out yet. Nobody's exploded and tried to freak out about anything. And so far they've been able to get back into the cage without help from us. And that's why I have the food and water in the cage, is so that they know where their main objective place is to be. So hopefully that was helpful. Talk to you later. Alright, so the quail have been out here for 2 days now. So this is turkey starter, which is kind of like wild game bird feed. It's super high protein. If you don't give quail super high protein with B vitamins in it, they'll just die. They really need extra supplementation to stay alive, to lay eggs, to be healthy. So we put their feed in these little containers, and then we get it moist, and it keeps them from shaking their head and throwing food everywhere. Alright, so anytime you have a greenhouse situation and you decide to keep other animals in the greenhouse, you have to make sure not to spill food, because that's what brings the mice in. Alright, so this is sand. The reason we give them sand is so that they can dust bath, and also they use it for grit in their gizzard. It allows them to digest their food. So instead of eating little baby rocks, they eat sand. And we just use a regular seed tray, a heavy duty seed tray. Alright, so the reason I have a food right there and then a food right there and a water here is because I'm trying to teach them which end of the hotbed has food and water. Eventually I want to only have food and water inside the cage, which will make it easier for them to understand that they need to roost in the cage at night rather than us having to chase them down. But for now, I just want to make sure they know where food and water is, so that if they can't figure out how to get back in the cage for some reason, they're not starving. So that means I need to get one more water out here. And our quail have always done better when we have wetted their food. We just have much less waste that way. You can see that these guys in here are a little confused. They really want to get out, but they can't remember how to do it. So we're kind of at that stage with them right now. This is day 3. And most of them have figured out how to get in and out all the time, but not all of them. How you doing, guys? And they really like that little hidey hole. Now, I don't want to encourage them to stay in that hidey hole all the time. It's why I don't have any food in the whole rest of the hotbed. Is because I want them to come over here to eat. I want this to be their safe space. I want this to be their food space. They can go hide over there. If they want to eat, they gotta come over here.